I just recently made a video on replacing wheel bearings on a lawn and garden cart, dump cart. And I had a wheel here that obviously has seen better days, and the wheel bearing had failed and it no longer will hold a new bearing. It's just worn because of wearing on the shaft. And so the new bearing won't press down into there like it should. It's loose. And so on something like this, I'm not really trying to get this to last forever. I'm just trying to get by for a while with this particular dump cart. We don't use it very often. So I'm going to try to use some JB Weld around the outside of this bearing, being very careful not to get it in the bearing itself. And I'm going to use the quick weld to set that in there and see how well it works. And I think that I can kind of smear enough JB Weld around the outside and then on the edge of the large diameter there to set it down in there and hold this in enough to get by for a little longer with this garden cart wheel. So let's get started. If you're new to JB Weld, they have a couple of options, and it does work for a lot of applications. Now, this is the quick weld. It only takes a few hours to cure instead of waiting for about a day with the original formula. Basically, what you got to do is clean the surface really well, and then you mix the two parts of this epoxy, and then it will harden over time. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of emery cloth that you saw me use in the other video, and I'm just going to kind of clean in here. And it doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but we want to get away any rust and debris that's going to affect the JB Weld from working. All right, so I'm going to mix up the JB Weld right here on this 2x4. And this stuff is pretty nasty. You don't really want to get it all over your skin and everything like that. So take precautions. And it will kind of ruin whatever you mix it up on. So don't use anything that you really care about to mix it up. And you want about 2 equal parts. And I always put a little bit more than I think I'm going to need. The reason for that is you don't want to have to mix some more up in the middle of your job. So I'm just going to use a stick here. Actually, I'll use this old bolt. And it will kind of mix up until it's like a gray. There we go. And once we've got it to this point, you're on a time limit now because it doesn't take long for the quick weld to cure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this stick as like a little applicator. And I'm very carefully going to put this all around the outside of this wheel bearing. And I'm not going to be afraid to kind of pack it on because we don't want it to get loose in there again. The one thing that is a negative on this, though, is that this will never come out. Once I get this in there, if this goes bad, I'm going to end up having to buy another wheel. But this tire is all dry rotted anyway, and the wheel itself was worn out, so I don't really care because it's just going to get me by until if it ever does fail again, which may be in a long time, then I'll just buy another one. So I've got the JB Weld on there, and now I'm going to put some right into here. Same exact thing, just kind of smear it around that surface. Okay, and now we're going to set this right down in there like that. And I'm just going to kind of go around the outside of that. Just to kind of smooth it out and get it over that lip. But I don't want to get it into the bearing itself. Okay, so that's how I'm going to leave it. We have contact area on the bearing itself into the ID of the rim, and we smeared a little bit out over the outer edge to kind of help it maybe from popping out a little bit. But of course, we'll have the cotter pin there to hold this nice up against the garden cart. So let's let this sit, and I'm going to let it sit actually until tomorrow morning because I'm ready to close up here for the day. But I'll show in the video tomorrow how it works out on the garden cart. The wheel seems to be working fine. We've had it on here for a few days now and done some tests with it. We've had some loads in the wagon, and nothing has failed. The wheel has not, the bearing has not come out. Of course, we have a spacer here that helps hold it, but it's working fine. I think it's going to get us by for the rest of this year, and maybe then I'll just buy another tire next year as this one's kind of getting rotted out. But this was a good way to fix it and repair a wheel bearing with JB Weld, quick weld, that'll get me by for this season. Thanks for watching.